Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a very interesting video because we just have a million updates. Some of them pretty promising, and then others I think are just flat out great news. So let's go ahead and get right into this video. Yeah, as you can see, I am back home after traveling for 24 hours yesterday. Left Jordan, had a 13-hour flight to Chicago, had to sit in Chicago for like 7 hours or something. Came with 8 luggages for a bunch of stuff for family, then we had to recheck those bags in, then fly to Louisville, then get these bags, and some of them came on another flight, and then drive home. It was a whole ordeal. Yeah, I'm home, and it feels so strange. You guys seen where I was recording, but I'm back in my little dungeon. And just thanks for hanging out with me the whole time I was there. That was pretty cool. But as you guys know, the news does not stop, and today we have some exciting news, pretty cool updates. So before we get started, if you could hit a like and subscribe, that would truly mean the world to me. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter so we can keep these communities growing, and let's go ahead and get right into this video. So the first thing I would like to do is talk about Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. I will just go ahead and tell you guys, I have not played this game. I know there was a demo around at Target and Walmart, and I was actually at Target earlier. I didn't even check to see if there was a demo, but yeah, I will eventually get around to this. I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of like warrior style games. I'm not a fan, but it's not something that just piques my interest, and I cannot wait to play. And it's cool that this story is canon leading into Tears of the Kingdom. So that's neat, but I just want this to be over. Like this whole Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda universe, I would really like for this to be the end of it. And I guess we're actually going to talk about that a little later in this video as well. But the reviews are out. Now I'm just basing this off Metacritic. And obviously if you've played this game or are playing this game, please let me know how you guys are enjoying it in the comments. I would love to hear, firsthand reviews. But as of right now on Metacritic, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment has a 79. And if I'm not mistaken, this is now the highest rated Hyrule Warriors game. 79? That's not a bad game. I hate when sometimes you see a 70 or 75 and you're like, oh, big flop there. Like, that's still a decent game. It just means it's not a masterpiece. And to put this in perspective, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity has a 78, and then Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition also has a 78. So you would think with a new console and maybe some new mechanics or something, they would have did a lot better, but it seems to be just right there with the other games. And I guess that's good, at least it's not worse than the other games. But like I was saying, if you guys have played this game, I would love to hear how you're enjoying it. Now Nintendo, they just do the weirdest and wackiest stuff whenever they feel like it. Some days you wake up and there's a new trailer for Metroid Prime 4, which happened a few days ago. I think that evening, or maybe the very next morning, Nintendo decided to release a new app out of nowhere, no marketing for it, no mention of it. And, I look at patents all the time. I don't even think we've seen patents for this. And if I'm not mistaken, it is called Nintendo Store app, and this is for iOS and Android. Now that I'm thinking about this, where the hell are all these apps on the Switch 2? Nintendo Music, Nintendo Today, Nintendo Store. I have a feeling these will eventually come over to the Switch 2, hopefully, but that's not the point of this conversation. So I actually had quite a few of you guys message me on Instagram and tell me about this app. It's an easier way to access the company's online shop. That's why it's called Nintendo Store. Straight to the point, right? But what's really cool about this is you can sign in to your Nintendo account, right? And you can see your Nintendo Switch too, and Nintendo Switch Play activity. But if you had a 3DS or a Wii U system, you can see your Play activity log prior to February 2020. So you can go back like quite a while and see your Play activity. And I think some people may be posting on Twitter their Play activity. It's like, why? Like, why do this? And I'm not saying it's not cool. I think this is really cool. But it's so Nintendo to do something so unnecessary and like excessive that nobody asked for or nobody expected. But then when it's something you actually expect or something you want, Nintendo just acts blind, deaf, and dumb. So, yeah, in some ways, I hope Nintendo never changes the way they act because it's just goofy and random. But this is cool. I personally have not downloaded this app, and I'll be honest, I don't think I'm going to. I downloaded the Nintendo Today app. I used it maybe 3 times. Nintendo Music, I think I may have used it 1 time. Maybe. I actually might have never used it. So These are cool, don't get me wrong, I do think it's cool, but is it something I'm personally going to use all the time? Probably not. Whenever I go to the Nintendo store or Nintendo.com, I just go on my computer, and I go over there pretty frequently, so if I needed to do this on my phone, I would just go to Nintendo.com. Now, before we get into 2 major Nintendo updates, quickly, it's not really Nintendo focused news, but Grand Theft Auto 6 has been delayed for the 2nd or 3rd time. It was supposed to come out November of this year, so, any day now. Then it got delayed, I think, until June or July of 2026. Feels like a weird time to release a game. I know you have the summer, so everybody would be off, but I just feel like it makes more sense as a holiday title, and now it has been delayed again until November of 2026. So in fact, a holiday title. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this, not only because it's, major news, but I think this will play into a lot of games coming sooner than later, especially some Switch 2 games or third-party Switch 2 games, because we've seen with Hollow Knight Silksong, the hype was so crazy, some companies delayed their games. And if you're like the little guy on the totem pole, you don't want to be overshadowed by one of the biggest releases of all time. The same thing, actually not even the same thing, more in fact, with GTA 6. So I could see a lot of games, and a lot of these games that will come out maybe on the PS5 and Xbox as well as the Switch 2, these games will now be pushed up from release. Maybe they're going to come out later in the year. Now it's like, GTA is coming out in November. All right, let's drop all these games in the summertime. Maybe we see some of these games show up in directs or what have you. But yeah, I think this is just a net positive for smaller games that will potentially show up on the Switch too. Now, earlier when we were talking about Hyrule Warriors, I was saying this is cool, but I want Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, that whole stuff, to be over. I want to move on. Let's talk about this Zelda update quickly, and then we'll circle back to that. The Legend of Zelda film is now in production and filming in Wellington, New Zealand. So what's interesting here is New Zealand was also where The Lord of the Rings was filmed. And funny enough, I was actually watching the first 2 movies on the airplane yesterday, kind of falling asleep, but paying attention at the same time. And while I was watching it, I was having thoughts of like, man, this would be so cool for a Zelda movie. It's not like a crazy thing that they would film the movies here if Lord of the Rings was filmed there, and then there's just so many locations that look almost otherworldly. So I find it really interesting that Zelda is following in the footsteps. But what would they film there, right? I know they have CGI and all these editing effects, so it doesn't have to be just what's in New Zealand. But after learning about this update, I started reading through some comments to see other people's opinions. And I'll be honest, there was quite a few people, like more than not, saying they think this is going to be for Breath of the Wild because of that being the best-selling Zelda game of all time. It's the most popular one, so they want to do something in that same universe potentially for a movie. And then you see Hyrule Warriors obviously be in that same universe. Is that what the Zelda movie is going to be? A continuance of Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, or maybe something else just in that same timeline? Because in those games it's like flashbacks mostly. There's no real cutscenes happening like while you're playing. It's always a flashback or some kind of something. I was thinking once they showed the actors or whatever that it was going to be Ocarina of Time, like the most popular Zelda game, even though it's not the best selling one. It's the definitive Zelda game. And then maybe they'd have like an Ocarina of Time remake, holiday 2026, to lead us into the Zelda movie, the same way we got Galaxy 1 and 2 leading us into Super Mario Galaxy movie. I'm not really sure. And also, I'm not sure about this whole live action thing. Sony Pictures is doing it, so, I think they do pretty good work there, and then it's Nintendo, so obviously they're going to treat their IPs with the highest regard. But there was just so many things they could have did if they didn't do live action. But this is interesting, so I think New Zealand is the perfect spot for them to film this. And then arguably some of the best Nintendo Switch 2 news we've got so far. And I'll be honest, I did not expect this news to come so soon, especially coming off the success of the Nintendo Switch, like almost 155 million consoles sold. They just put out the numbers a few days ago as well. I think it was like 154 point something. So almost taking over the DS. Will it hit the best-selling console of all time? I don't know. I thought potentially, once the Switch 2 came out, they did some price drops, some cool bundles, some cool something. Obviously, that's not the direction things are going, so maybe, but I just don't know anymore. But the news that came along with that, moving forward, software development will be centered around the Nintendo Switch 2. This is crazy, right? With the success of the Switch, going on almost a decade, and over 150 million consoles sold. You would think that they would focus on development for that as well. And we have seen quite a few games doing dual releases like Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, maybe some other stuff I can't remember right now. And I don't honestly care that much. We would think we would see this happening for another year or two. We do have Tamagotchi Life happening in 2026 as well as another few games. But that seems to be it. You know what I mean? I think maybe the Switch 2 sold better than they initially expected. It's funny, I just went to Target and it was the first time I've seen Switch 2s in stock since the Switch 2 came out. And I know they're in stock everywhere. I think the console sold 10 million consoles now. And then they were thinking they were going to do 15 in the first fiscal year. And I think they updated that number till 19 million, which is, it's astounding. So the Switch 2 is selling better than they expected. It's the fastest selling console of all time. I think they're just trying to get as many people to buy a Switch 2 as fast as possible. And what's crazy is those numbers did not include the Pokemon bundle that came out with Legends EA. So, you know, that could have been another 500,000 to 1 million consoles as well. So I think Nintendo's focus is truly on the Switch 2. And that's crazy. You got to think. Let's compare it to the PlayStation 5 and PS4. You see how long games were released on the PS4 alongside the PS5. And I truly think it hurt the PlayStation 5 generation. I just think, yes, it's cool that you supported all these people that could not afford a PS5 or get one, but it also hurt game development, in my opinion, and the output of first-party titles on the PS5. So I know it's not a one-on-one comparison, the PS5 and the Switch 2, but yeah, I just think this bodes well for the future of the Nintendo Switch 2. And here in 18 months, we're gonna be like, man, the Switch generation was crazy, but this Switch 2 generation is really cooking. But ladies and gentlemen, what do you think about this? Because your opinion matters most. It feels so weird to sit here and talk. You know, I've been holding a microphone for 3 weeks and didn't have like a nice setup, but we got it done, son. So in the comments below, as always, let me know what you guys are thinking. If you made it all the way to this part of the video, if you could do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. Dude, it takes nothing and it helps out tremendously. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Again, it takes nothing. I talk to you guys over there every single day. And consider becoming a channel member because that is the ultimate way to support. And you guys know me, I will see you very soon with a new video. Peace out.